So today we're going to be talking about chapters 5 and 6 of How to Be a Stoic using ancient philosophy to live a modern life. Right off the bat, I'll say that I had a preference for chapter 5 over chapter 6. I felt like chapter 5 hit some surprisingly, I'm going to say, surprisingly relatable topics to some stuff that's going on right now. So I'm interested to hear some feedback on that when we get there. Um, so, oh, what's his name? Pigliucci?
Iliucci, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Piliucci. Yep.
Massimo Pigliucci, yeah.
Piliucci. He's got his Epictetus conversation going on, and then here he's like, what if we also talk to Socrates?
A thing
And
that has never
mhm,
before been thought of.
yeah, no one's ever. No, I'm kidding. But so in this chapter, I feel like his thoughts were more organized. It was a lot easier to kind of follow the train of thought and to feel like I had some good nuggets to think on. And so he really starts talking about Stoic aphorisms, which is just a fancy word, I think, for quotes and sayings.
I
Uh,
I concur with that, yeah.
a pithy observation. Yep. The Stoic is a perfect opening to move from bumper sticker level to at least the level of an elevator speech. And I have to tell you, that was the most hilarious line I've read in a little while. Um, this idea of like elevating from like bumper sticker to elevator speech was just really amusing to me.
And at the same time, in the same sentence, he can't resist throwing in a kind of like, and that's all really anybody can talk about these days, like the destruction of modern society or something.
Yeah, it is
I
like
just
a feeling of like you could have just ended the sentence there, buddy. That would have been a
right,
great
yeah,
sentence.
exactly.
I think that's the to be forgiving of it is that he's going from his academic science book writing time to probably learning how to write a more conversational book
Yeah, in real time as it happens.
in real time. And so with that in mind, I think he's doing something he would probably do in conversation with someone, which is add little quips like that.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make it better.
No,
I don't
No, it
want
but
to
doesn't.
talk to him.
and then he talks about preferred indifference, which
Okay, all
was
right. So
mhm.
the thing about this preferred indifference and dispreferred indifference, the definition of this spans the rest of this chapter. I want to note that. Just
Does he spends quite a few pages defining
it's
this
seven,
concept for us. Mhm.
seven I counted.
I counted. Very good. Very good thing to keep in mind. We are going to spend the rest of this chapter kind of learning to define that from him. Um, and then he briefly talks about a ball game, which I guess is where the title of the chapter comes from, of this idea of playing a game with Socrates.
Yeah, I guess.
I thought a good point, though, was that the ball is the only means to an end and isn't the important thing. It is what one does with the ball that defines the game and how well it is played.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
that was a good little quip. I was like, oh, that's something to think about. And that the best players, use their their fantasia.
yeah. Fantasia.
I thought that was a fun word to use. Um,
Yes.
and then he hits
Oh,
Max. He hits Max. Um,
Oh.
that just
with a
happened.
ball.
Yeah, with the ball. He hits
You just
Max
got
with the
hit with a
ball.
ball by Socrates.
Okay, that's
Congrats.
okay. That's fine.
I will say he hits like a good topic that, most realms of thought seem to hit of as far as kind of dealing with the hand you're given. Um it he quotes was it yeah, it was Epictetus and the end of the quote is it is for you then to take what is given you and make the most of it.
Yeah, like
And then
control what you can control.
I have to tell you, I highlighted this in red because I don't know why we were suddenly talking about Edward Snowden.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I was so. And I just. This is where I really firmly believe he's learning in real time, as you said, Coog, to write a conversational book instead of an academic one. And so I think in a realistic conversation you'd be having with Piliucci about these things, he would in fact go on a rant about Edward Snowden. That's what I expect.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But what was more interesting to me was the discussion on the following paragraphs, where he starts to talk about how everything has an ethical dimension. And the word he never quite says is what is it? Ethical consumerism, or
Um,
there's another word that before consumerism. I've forgotten it. Oh well. So
Conscious consumerism, maybe?
conscientious consumerism. Thank you.
Conscientious, yes, that's it, yeah.
He never quite says conscientious consumerism, but he absolutely dives into the concept. And then, and he says, he gives a little anecdote where he changes his bank after realizing that the bank he currently uses, while has good service, is kind of irreconcilable in what they're doing with the money. And so he's,
Just say you were banking with Wells Fargo. It's fine. We all
yeah,
get it.
I get it. And so, yeah, and I thought that was an interesting topic because, learning how seriously a practicing Stoic will take these things is interesting.
Well, there's respect in throwing your money, like for real, throwing your money and effort where you say you're going to. There's respect.
Right, and there's a lot of current social situations right now that I think are really relevant to this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a game recently came out, and there's a lot of debate on like whether or not you should buy or purchase or play that game due to some associations with people and how those people have verbally abused a community. And so that's a thing. And also some other stuff like anti-Semitism. Anyway, regardless, you vote with your dollars, as they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
You vote with your dollars.
you vote with your dollars, and this conscientious consumerism is difficult, and it's hard to find the balance. And when is it just silly to try to stick to it because reality is that you're not making a big difference? My husband and I were discussing, not my husband. Who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody. I don't think it was my husband. Now that I think about it. Anyway, talking to somebody, and about how recycling is really a great concept, but realistically, a bulk of the plastic that you recycle never gets recycled. Like it just ends up in the dump anyway
Yeah,
because of the
yeah.
plastic, the way that process ends up working out. But it is in fact cheaper to recycle aluminum for companies because of the way the process works rather than trying to make new aluminum things. So recycling your aluminum goods is in fact better and will benefit things, you know what I mean? And so being aware that I don't know. And so making a decision about is it worth my time to recycle my plastics and just force someone else to send them to the dump? You know what I mean?
Right. Like at a certain point, it's like this is either going to go to a landfill or it's going to become a bench.
Yeah. And
And
yeah.
like the machine moves on whether or not I'm part of it.
Mhm. And so you got to make these decisions, and I think having it informed, being informed of the process that these decisions are taking, like, okay, if I try to recycle all these things, what is actually happening to the things that I recycle? I think that's kind of nice. But I have to tell you, where he really lost me is where he starts talking about going to a goddamn high fancy falutin restaurant in New York City.
Right. My
Talk.
principles are so high. My principles are so high. I won't eat at this $50 a plate restaurant.
Actually, what he said was, I try not to, but it can't always be avoided.
Yeah, right. In what circumstance? In what circumstance? He even lists the circumstance, but come the fuck on, dude.
I love this. Thus relegating myself to what others may consider a joyless life while surrounded by culinary pleasures of all kinds, in which I refuse to partake.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I get that this is all just a long-winded way of getting to the enjoy what you can so long as it's not like causing problems.
Yeah.
I realize that, but still, holy crap, dude.
The best
Also
part.
the
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
self-indulgent.
also I think like one of the main points I'm pretty sure was for this chapter was the whole the morality of or the when you're choosing between things there's not like a one and done in all situations for most things that you can't just say well in all cases here's the rule and that he's saying we have to consider many different aspects to determine whether or not it is truly the best thing to do. I don't remember where it was exactly, something about eating, like being vegetarian, but then maybe in some
That's in a couple
situation it might
pages.
actually
Yeah.
be better. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that was maybe a stronger example, but I think in this example too about the restaurant, he's saying, oh, well, you could say that maybe it's not the best thing to do. But then what if there's something else, like someone else's feelings are involved in this, or like I'm
Yeah.
depriving somebody of an experiences that really now I can't have this blanket rule for myself and it doesn't work. And I guess he's trying to say that that's what makes Stoicism different than, well, although that thing about Snowden kind of is the opposite of that because he was criticizing him for not behaving like
Yeah.
Socrates. So I'm not sure now. But now that I say that, I think that was the point, but it's sort of hypocritical in a way.
It was a little back and forthy, little whiplash. I thought it was an interesting point to say that he had a dilemma between the ethics against the operation versus his desire to not disappoint someone he loves, which is fine because you don't want to cause the people you love suffering. But
But
are
don't you also have a responsibility to balance that suffering against the world?
yeah, yeah, and it's interesting to see how he's weighting these two things. Yeah. Um, and then he quotes Marcus Aurelius: "If you must live in a palace, then you can also live well in a palace." Which is sort of a I'm here anyway.
Yeah, it is because you don't ever have to live in the palace. You don't.
I have to tell you though, if I applied this logic to my life generally speaking, I would be making a lot less good choices. So, like for instance, in the staff lounge at work, there are constantly donuts and other treats coming through. I, however, am diabetic. And so I must frequently look upon them and say, no, that's bad for Des and Des
Well, that would be
body.
living well, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And
Because
It
but
you know
would
the
be living
price
well.
of the donuts.
yeah, if I generally, but I enjoy the pleasure of the donuts, right? And they're available and they're there.
Right, but this is I feel more about like a eating a meal which is very delicious and also not harmful to you. Like it could be harmful in other ways, but
But
it's
mm-hmm. But then
like
on a
Yeah,
ramen
scale,
versus a steak
how is
dinner,
how is
you
it
know.
different to make a choice to harm my body versus the harm that comes from unethical sourcing of ingredients?
Well, because body to your harm is of a different moral caliber in that it affects you directly no matter what you do, versus harm towards another, which you can uh, sort of wave away.
But should I?
No, ethically no, but like the the
what
difficulty
is should
here is
here?
impacting the moral magnitude.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, I did think this was a good nugget he ends this sentiment with, which is Stoicism is about developing the tools to deal as effectively as humanly possible with ensuing conflicts, does not demand perfection, and does not provide specific answers. Those are fools Those are for fools who think the world is black and white, good versus evil, where it is always possible to clearly tell good guys from bad guys. And that was a good point. Then talks about my man Diogenes.
Ah, yes.
Gotta love Diogenes. Nothing much to say about him. He just
Right,
kind
no,
of.
it's like here's Diogenes and the things that everybody knows about Diogenes, and moving on.
Mm-hmm. And he talks about Aristotle for a hot minute, and ends that kind of a part of the thought process was better to endure pain in an honorable manner than to seek joy in a shameful one, which I think is kind of that ethical thing dilemma. All right. Then we talk about some logical fallacy time, which is fine. I don't want to get into the specifics of it necessarily. It's not a very thrilling discussion, in my opinion, unless you guys really want to talk about it.
Well, there was a nice discussion on lexicographic ordering, but whatever. That's not relevant to the Stoicism.
Yep, he does talk about that. Chapter 6, God or Atoms? So this becomes an
Oh boy.
entire chapter 6, Max, becomes an entire um discussion about various present and ancient considerations of how much influence God or gods are having on our day-to-day life,
I'm so
if
ready.
if any at all.
Boy, here we go. Here we go.
um
I
eh,
I I I want to say I saw the what's on the second page already. When I first saw this, my immediate thought was, you dare not bring Thomas Aquinas before me. That's just holy shit.
I've had enough of Aquinas for my whole life.
I wonder
done
if he's gonna bring
done
up Ansem and Ganillo.
um he makes the proclamation based on some of Epictetus's writings that he was very much there was a god creator in the design of everything's um, the design of the world to support the existence of a designer, if you will.
Interspersed,
Ah,
of
the
course.
teleological argument.
Yeah, interspersed, of course, with acknowledgments that Epictetus almost certainly believed in a logos, more or less, instead of a
Yep.
specific creator.
He gets
Like,
into that.
how do we do both of these things? I don't know, but we're about to find out.
This organizing principle you speak of, that's just God.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see, how does he put it here? Then he talks about David Hume.
Oh my god.
Um,
Sweet Hume.
and then if there exists a house, we conclude there's an architect or a builder, right?
I mean,
Um,
you got to get the watchmaker argument out of there somehow, I guess.
I mean, you gotta
You
we
got to.
also have to have the firstest argument.
Oh no,
so
we
yes,
don't.
pretty much the watchmaker who made the watch, right? He goes into that, re-explains it. What I feel was an unnecessary amount of times the same concept, but fine.
Good.
Okay.
Right, I
Did
thought
you
I thought some pages. I thought some pages.
This
Go ahead.
whole chapter really drove home. I mean, something that I've kind of thought from every chapter so far, but he brings up a lot of quotes, and then it seems like his interpretation or like his comprehension of what it actually says is either inaccurate or he does get the point somewhere later on, but
Yeah.
when immediately following the quote, this quote means blah 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 is like not it's never correct. I don't think he's had anyone in the whole book so far that's been Every
Yeah,
single time I'm
so
like, that's not what that said. Read it again. That's not what it said.
the book feels like he read a thing, he made an idea, and then he thought about it for a while and changed his mind and finally understood it. But then he didn't decide to rewrite the book at any point. Like,
Yeah. Sometimes I still think that there are points that he just completely didn't understand and is trying
yeah,
really hard to make it relevant, but he doesn't quite get it, especially in some of the previous chapters where he'll, like, for example, this thing in my life, and it's like, that's not, no. And he's talking so much that it's pretty clear that it's just incorrect. Like, he just didn't get it. And it's not that he worded it poorly, because eventually, if you really are driving home some kind of example,
yeah.
you could see, and he doesn't seem to see many of these points. The Hume
Right.
thing was driving me crazy. Like, that's not what that
So,
means.
I'm
That's not what that
immediately
means.
uncomfortable with recommending this book with anyone who hasn't spent time with these teachings
Yeah.
because
Yeah, yeah.
they're going to come away with a wild sense of what they are. Like,
This is not a beginner's book. This is something that like a master class is going to be over. Okay, let's talk about why this is bad.
Right, let's pick this apart.
we're going to pick this book apart. Here we go.
An unreliable narrator we have.
Mhm. Oh, here you go. This is where Logos comes in over here.
Like what we're doing, but even more vicious.
Yeah, yeah. Way more vicious. So, we spent a lot of time talking about the nature of the divine, if you will, or nature, the, the identification of God with nature,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine and good. I'm like, all right, I'm on board personally with my own belief system. This is good, right? But then, I just, I don't know how to describe my sense of like, there's not a single coherent thought that is trailing through this paragraph. Um,
Oh, good.
I maybe this is just an attachment of mine I need to work on. I like compartmentalizing thoughts and conversations so that to reach as much clarity as I possibly can when talking to people with things. And this feels like somebody trying to have about 5 conversations at the same time. And so I personally find it mentally a bit difficult to untangle some of my thoughts about it.
There's just a lot going on in that paragraph.
And what he does hit is an interesting, I can't remember what page, an interesting anecdote where it's like humorous for someone to believe a certain way, but then to also beg that God to make their leg not hurt.
Oh,
um,
I think that was a little bit before.
mhm,
Uh, one more page maybe.
He brings it up like 3 different times, though, I believe.
mhm,
So it started with the chapter with that, it ended the chapter with that, and then I think it's
yeah.
mentioned somewhere in the middle there
Yeah,
too.
because the maimed leg thing is at the bottom of the middle.
This is effectively it, right? This God does not
Yeah.
suspend the laws of nature in order to intervene here and there to right local wrongs, right? So this idea that this God with nature, Einstein's God, is not going to like fix your painful leg.
Mm-hmm.
um, and then he talks about Seneca's idea of that which is true is mine, which I like as a phrase, and I feel like I would wear on a T-shirt. Um, there's just so much talk of different views of God and gods in this chapter, which makes sense given the title.
I was about to say, at least she's on track for that.
He is on track with
Yeah.
his announced topic, which is good.
Haven't seen a lot of stuff about atoms.
Here's mediations.
You
This
mentioned
reminds me,
Einstein. Does that count?
I recently acquired that book. I have that now. mediations. Um, I don't.
And
I
then there's his then there's his this then his story about
yeah,
being an atheist in Tennessee. All right, bud.
which is funny because I think he's originally from Rome, and he talks
Yeah,
a lot about living in New York. What were you
he's
doing
a
in
former
Tennessee?
Catholic.
Mhm. Why? Why do you keep bringing up these tidbits from your life but not fully contextualizing them?
Right. This is a
We're
guy
like,
supposed to
who.
know if
hmm?
we read the other books.
Yeah. Like, this sentence doesn't need to be here. Unnecessary. When I was living in Tennessee, unnecessary. Don't need it. I don't need to
I
know
like how
where
it's
you
a
were at the
hyperlink.
time.
I like how it's a hyperlink.
I know. Also, how dare you call my people bumpkins? Not-
Also, the answer is he has a PhD in the philosophy of science from the University of Tennessee.
oh, good. Where does
Gosh,
it
the
say
link
that?
takes it.
Is
Hmm?
that where it takes me?
The link takes you to the actual debate that is in question here in this
Oh
paragraph.
no.
Oh
If you
yeah.
for taste of my debates, if you are so inclined.
Oh my
He
god.
also debated. He also debated
Mm.
Kent Hovind. Oh my god. Ugh.
If this is how he writes, I'm terrified of how he
The,
debates.
Yeah.
the best part about this to me is this paragraph also brings up Dwayne Gish,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been kind of leaning towards describing this entire rhetorical style as a Gish gallop the entire time. Like he throws ideas at you and just moves on. Throw idea, move on. Throw an idea, move on.
Perfect match.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thing that Dwayne Gish is credited with pioneering.
Hmm. All right. Well, that's something.
This guy is a an adventure inside a person.
He is an adventure.
My favorite thing is in the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Right after that bit there. So after this entire paragraph of
Mm-hmm.
debating the different views of the nature of the universe and order of the universe and creation and whether or not there is a god and how that god or logos functions and what we can attribute to what it essentially says none of that matters at all. What is
Yeah,
important in life is to live it well, and that such an objective, the eudaimonic existence sought by the ancients, depends very little on whether there's a god or not, and if there is one, on what its specific attributes may or may not be.
Yep.
So,
and then
what?
literally says agree to disagree in the final sentence, which is also a question.
Yep.
Oh, I will give him one thing. I will give him credit for this one thing. New atheists, that new atheism movement, they are a bunch of assholes.
Which, oddly enough, I don't think was even his point either.
No, no, it
It's
was a
like,
throwaway. It was a throwaway comment. That's the best part.
Yeah.
uh,
Um.
but we're 65 pages in, and every single thing that he establishes, he throws away. So I feel
All right. Hear me out. Maybe it's like Moby Dick. You. you.
What does that mean?
Okay. I'll explain.
Oh,
So
I
the
actually
book
understood.
Moby Dick originally was written to be long and tedious to read with punctuations of high adrenaline because that's the experience that maritimers have on the sea.
Oh my god.
So maybe
That's awful.
it was intentionally written to be bad. That's why at the end it's like, with any luck, they'll hate it. So maybe Piliuchigud is like
Good.
doing the same thing. trying to take us.
He's trying to teach us a lesson through his writing style.
Yes.
You give him far too much credit.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Also, because every single chapter seems to be entreating us to stick with Stoicism. Like, there's some really good content here. You should really understand it. That's why I wrote this
It's
book, so that you
just
can
a few
understand it.
pages.
But
Right, just keep going. You'll see.
But-
this guy is a Dan Brown character.
A
He's
little
a
bit.
character in a book.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
He
think
cannot be a real person.
he also thinks of himself as that, and maybe that is the problem.
That's true.
Yes.
He
This
did.
is a guy who thinks he's what's his name? The guy from the fucking Angels and Demons and whatever.
What is, no,
I
he
think he
talks
thinks
about
he's an
the book,
NPC.
the Slaughterhouse-Five or something. He really relates to that book.
Oh my god.
He brings
what
it up
a
like
weird
3
book to
times in
relate
the first
to.
couple chapters, right?
Yep.
What an interesting book to relate to.
Yeah, I'm really dreading the coming chapters because this book does not vibe with me at all.
All right, so that's the question we have to ask ourselves today, team. Do we keep hate reading this book?
No. I
Um,
think it would be much more productive and meaningful for us to read something else and discuss it.
And if we would like to read something
Yeah.
else, yep, that's the question.
I agree
Yeah.
with
Oh
Lee.
man. Do we want to switch to the other Stoicism book?
There are other Stoicism books we could literally read. The works of Epictetus, who, when he's quoted in this book,
Let's-
I'm like, oh, I really like that.
Let's
Yeah.
do that. Let's do that. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
We don't even have to read all of it. We could just like, I'll just pick some like excerpts. And we'll just read those.
We'll do a close reading.
Like a
Oh
close
my
reading
God.
of a couple pieces of Epictetus, and I think that would be a more informing. The other option is I have a PDF of the Mediations. We could read some of that.
Meditations?
Yeah, it's called Mediations.
Really?
Yeah, hold on, I've got to find where I put the PDF.
God, I love words.
I think it's actually
No,
called
you're right. It's
Meditations.
Meditations. You're right. You right. I'm
thinking
sorry.
There could be
You
two.
confused me, and I'm like, what? Did they
There
change
could be
it?
two
Alright.
things.
Check out this excellent
Right.
PDF I have. It's literally somebody's photocopied book.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense if we're going to learn about Stoicism. We might as well go to the
Let's go to the
OGs.
source, I think. Maybe?
Even though we may be missing some historical context for those, but
Yeah.
I
So
don't
I
know.
actually checked out 3 different versions of Meditations before I chose this one as my favorite. Because the beginning and opening bits, the wording is real different amongst them, and I thought that this one had the best, like, most relatable reading.
Wait, are you
Thank
showing
you for
it to
doing
us?
that work.
I am. It's on my screen. If you can.
Nope.
No, all
It's
we
on
can
the
see
wrong
is your
window.
Kindle.
Gosh darn it! I forgot the way I had it set up. Hold on. I'll be able to fix this momentarily for y'all. Change windows. Screen. This one, because usually I share it a little differently on. There you go. Yeah, you should be able to see it.
Oh wow,
Yeah, check this out. It's great.
that's pretty great.
It's even got.
I like it.
You ready?
I
Old
like
too.
this. I like this.
This thing.
Yes.
They even bothered
yeah.
to include this thing.
Yes.
So this is the PDF I would share, and it ended up being the translation I found the easiest to read after looking through like 3 of these.
First off, thank you for checking out 3 different copies because this kind of stuff needs that.
Mhm.
So I didn't save the third one, but I have the second one I looked at here. Oh wait, nope, that's the same file.
Oh, good.
There we go. There's the other one. So this one was okay, but I'm gonna scroll to the same front bit. So
Mm.
Oh no, I don't even like the
The
layout.
kerning. The
Yeah.
kerning is
Mhm.
terrible.
the kerning's bad. The way some of it just got translated is weird, but this one's actually quite pleasant, and it has that nice "I'm reading an old book" vibe, which gives you a little
I dig
extra
this one.
This
little
is
serotonin
why
boost.
this is why all of the ebook readers I've found on Android have this like like burnt sienna color as the background because it's old book color.
All right. So I think we're decided that next week we're gonna read some of this, and I will.
I believe
Yeah.
so.
In
Pop.
favor.
So.
All right, go team.